So we're just building products and services day in and day out, making the investments today that'll help us down the road. Just in Kenya, that's not going to do anything for the earnings of JP Morgan next year. But 10 years from now, we'll have a much better African network, and that will do a lot for the health of JP Morgan.
You mentioned Africa. I was on the road most of September and early October. It seems like wherever I went, you were there 2 days earlier. Tell me a little bit about your Africa trip, which got a lot of press, actually. You mentioned Kenya. I didn't see where else you went. Yeah. What led you to spend more time on the continent, and what do you see as the opportunities there?
Yeah, so a little bit, we had COVID, so there's a couple of years of lost trips.
Yeah.
And so it's still a little bit of catch-up. I try to go everywhere, and you go to everywhere to see your clients, but you're always learning. I mean, learning. I was in Philippines, India, Tokyo. This trip in Africa, I was in Nigeria, Kenya, we opened a new branch, and South Africa. I've been waiting years to open branches in Africa. In fact, the government stopped me from doing it, years ago, which got me quite upset because I think America should spend more time in Africa and Latin America, and we should help a business go there. And it's hard to do, and there are risks, so you have to be quite careful about it. But we've been doing business in Nigeria quite successfully since 1960. Kenya's new. We've been doing business in South Africa for that amount of time. We do business in like 14 sub-Saharan countries. And quite a substantial amount. We do research on companies, we bring multinationals in, but being on the ground is different, and so you go to these countries, it's a sign of respect. The presidents show up, the central bank, 100 clients of all sorts, multinationals going into the country, but what's very uplifting about it? Both in all three places, Nigeria, Kenya, and Africa, the amount of tech, healthcare tech, fintech, M-Pesa, came out of that. There's a company, I didn't bring my phone, but there's a company that makes a phone, it looks like an Apple phone, probably isn't nearly as good, $100, called M-Coda. And I love the fact that technology, this diaspora, it's all over America. You go to any little town in America, but it's now all over the world. And then places like Berlin and Paris and London, and that weren't quite that way if you go back 10 or 15 years ago. So anyway, the network we're building there, I always remind them, when we go to places like Africa, it's a network. We're bringing people in. We bank South African and Nigerian companies outside of their countries. We circulate research. Our research people do a great job and educate the world on markets and countries and companies. So it's just the beginning. And this will be a gift to the next generation. Just like I inherited a lot of gifts from prior generations, like huge networks in Latin America, Asia, and Europe.